Well, hello and welcome back as we have an extra talk in this series on courage to what I'd originally envisaged, but I think this particular talk is an important one. As you know, we are focusing on the subject of courage in this series, and so I suppose as we come to the end of it, we inevitably need to look at the cost of acting courageously. Because, you know, the truth is, it pretty much always costs to do the right thing. Sometimes it costs dearly. And so to stand up for what you believe in and not just go with the flow, it takes courage. Now, as I've been saying, we're looking at 4 real-life ordinary people in the Bible and how they needed to find courage to rise to the situations they found themselves in. Whether that be the courage to grasp a second chance that God was offering them, or the courage to confront when they see something happening that's just wrong, or as in the case of the person we're thinking about right now, Esther, the courage to stick to your principles and do the right thing even though that carries a lot of risk. Now Esther was a young Jewish woman who'd been taken into the harem of a king called Xerxes, who was a king of the Persians. The Jews were in exile in that land, and Esther, because of other circumstances, had become queen. She's now in a privileged position, but it was also a very precarious one because the previous holder of that position, a woman called Vashti, had just been banished because of some misdemeanor. So Esther knew that if she wanted to stay queen, and more importantly, if she wanted to stay alive, she needed to keep her head down and just not rock the boat. However, a situation arose that was like the last thing she needed. It turned out that one of the king's advisors, a man called Haman, had a plan to kill off all the Jews in the land. Esther's uncle, a man called Mordecai, got to hear about this cunning plan, and he got word to Esther that she should go and have a word in the king's ear to foil this plot. Suddenly, Esther's plans to stay under the radar, to remain unnoticed and as anonymous as possible, are put in jeopardy. All she wants is what most of us want: a quiet life with the minimum of conflict. Some of us might be troubleshooters by nature, but in general, most of us would prefer to avoid that sort of thing. But occasionally you just can't. I remember a number of years ago when our son David was ill in hospital, and being in the crazy and frustrating cycle of month after month having an important operation cancelled because the medical staff kept on getting his medication wrong. Each month he would end up not being well enough to have the operation because of how they were giving the medication. In the end, I had to confront the consultant and threaten him with legal action if he didn't get this situation sorted out. Well, that got me a meeting with 3 consultants who attempted to bully and threaten me, but in the end they backed down and miraculously David had the operation. But who wants that kind of confrontation? Well, Esther realized that this was one of those moments where she could not just look the other way and pretend things weren't happening. Although she doesn't get to that position easily or quickly, but eventually she does. And she says, "And then, though it is against the law, I will go in to see the king. If I must die, I am willing to die." Now that is a statement that takes a lot of courage. We'd all like to think that we would say those words when faced with a situation where we can either do the right thing or just walk away. But would we? If it was going to become a bit of a confrontation, would we? If it was going to turn the spotlight on us in an awkward way, would we? If it was going to mean that we would be disadvantaged, Would we? Would we really do the right thing, even if it costs us? Would we have the courage for that? Would we have the courage to tell that person that everyone is afraid of at work, that they need to stop being such a bully? Would we have the courage to blow the whistle on something that is going on that is illegal or just wrong? Can we really trust what the Bible promises, which is that if you do what is right in the eyes of the Lord your God, all will go well with you and your children forever, as he promises in Deuteronomy 12 verse 28. Do we have the courage to believe that when common sense tells us that to do the right thing is going to single us out and give us a reputation as being a troublemaker, do we have the courage to do the right thing anyway? Well, as I've been saying, these are true life stories about real people. Stories that haven't been airbrushed or made them to look better than they actually were. And that bold statement that Esther makes is not her initial response. You see, her initial response is, I don't want to get involved. You need to find someone else to sort this out. Well, what got her to the point of making that courageous decision was a process. The process started, like it does for the vast majority of us, with Esther seeing all the reasons why she couldn't do this thing. She was absolutely the wrong person to get involved. She was in a difficult position, and to make a fuss over this was really going to jeopardize everything. Yes, she was in a privileged position, but she had no power, no influence. She wasn't even at liberty to go and talk this issue through with her husband. She had to wait to be summoned. The whole world knows that anyone who appears before the king in his inner court without being invited is doomed to die unless the king holds out his scepter. And the king has not called for me to come to him in more than a month, she says in Esther chapter 4 verse 11. So, my hands are tied. Sorry, I'd like to help, but it's too risky, too inconvenient. And to be honest, most of us leave it there. Most of us operate at the level of assessing whether to get involved or not on the basis of, is it risky? Is it inconvenient? Is it disadvantageous? There's a further question that many people just don't ask, which is it right? Has God put me in this place, in this role, in this relationship, because he has chosen me to take this stand and do the right thing? There are very few people who get to the point of asking that question, because it's a question that requires a lot of courage, even to ask, let alone to take action on in the light of that. The reality is, for troubles surround me, too many to count. They pile up so high I can't see my way out. They are more numerous than the hairs on my head. I have lost all my courage, as the psalmist says in Psalm 40 verse 12. See, often we look at these situations, we feel overwhelmed by it, and we experience a loss of courage. And so we start making excuses for why it's out of our hands, impossible for us to do anything about or take that stand. Our hands are tied. The lazy person, the Bible says, the lazy person is full of excuses, saying, I can't go outside because there might be a lion on the road. Yes, I'm sure there's a lion out there, says Proverbs 26 verse 13. Why is it that Esther didn't just leave it at that? She'd found an excuse for not getting involved. Why didn't her involvement in the story just finish there? Well, because she had what we all need. Someone who had a godly conscience. She had a godly conscience. Or at least she knew someone who pushed her to have a godly conscience. And the person who pushed her was a man called Mordecai. And he wasn't about to let her off the hook so easily. Not because he was using her, but because he truly believed that she needed to stand up and be counted and not just to sidestep the issue. It was Mordecai who helped her realize the cost of not doing it. See, all she was focusing on was the cost of taking this stand. What Mordecai pointed her to was the bigger picture of what would happen if she did nothing. He says this, if you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance for the Jews will arise from some other place, but you and your relatives will die. God would somehow save the Jews because they were his chosen people. But Esther shouldn't fool herself into thinking that if she buries her head in the sand, nothing is going to happen to her. This wasn't a choice between taking a risk and doing nothing. No, this was a choice between taking a risk and becoming a casualty anyway. And you know what? We all need a Mordecai. We all need help to not just opt for the quiet life. We need to be positively encouraged to see reality and take the stand that needs to be taken. I get this all the time with my wife, Jan. I take far more stands for what's right because I'm not allowed to settle for what's easy, rather than because I choose to of my own free will. She doesn't let me. A while ago, for example, I had taken a courageous stand on behalf of the church and said we weren't going to get involved in something in the community because it wasn't being set up and run in a proper way. It wasn't an easy stand to take because it involved direct confrontation, which I didn't want to do, but I did it. And I breathed a huge sigh of relief and we moved on for a while. But this person then regrouped and a short while after this, he sent me an email saying, well, if you're not going to be involved on this community day, can you at least design and produce the posters and the handbills? Now, I have to be honest, a part of me thought, oh, we can do that. That would be easy. It'd keep them happy and keep them, away from us. So maybe I'll just, compromise a bit and do that. Well, I mentioned it to Jan, my wife, who immediately said, well, I hope you're not going to do that. You've already fought that battle. Don't get back on that slippery slope now. If I'm honest, my heart sank. It sank for two reasons. One, because if I follow that advice, I'm going to have another difficult and confrontational conversation. And two, because I know in my heart she's absolutely right. The cost of not taking this stand again is that certain things will continue happening that shouldn't be happening, and they won't be addressed in this community, and this community will be worse off for it. On a personal level, the cost of taking this stand again was high, but not as high as not taking that stand. But I know that without my very own Mordecai, I would not have got to that point. Even though taking the stand and doing the right thing is costly, the cost of not doing that is not going to be felt in the here and now, maybe in this world, or it will be felt in the here and now, but also it's going to be felt in heaven. The cost will be in heaven. See, that's what Jesus makes very clear on one occasion. He says, away from me, you cursed ones, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his demons. For I was hungry and you didn't feed me. I was thirsty and you didn't give me anything for me to drink. I was a stranger and you didn't invite me into your home. I was naked and you gave me no clothing. I was sick and in prison and you didn't visit me. Not doing the right thing might give us temporary relief here and now, but long term, the consequences will be much greater. Now, realizing that gave Esther the courage that she needed. But Mordecai didn't stop there. He provided her with a reason to take this courageous step that was beyond just personal interest. Realizing that she would be storing up trouble for the future for herself if she didn't take this stand could have been enough motivation in itself. But the truth is there was more to it than that. The truth is what tipped the scales was when she recognized that this was a defining moment for her. Again, it was Mordecai who pointed this out to her. In fact, what he did was he helped her to see the big picture. He said, "What's more, who can say but that you have been elevated to the palace for just such a time as this?" Esther chapter 4, verse 14. Esther, this could be your big moment. The reason why you have the position that you have. And so rather than looking for ways of protecting your position by avoiding this moment, maybe you need to realize that it was for this moment that you were given this position. Have you considered that? All those awkward moments when you know you could do the right thing, but it might disadvantage you or put you in a difficult position or damage the reputation that you've spent so long constructing. Have you considered the possibility that it's all been leading to this moment and to other moments like this? I'm thinking of the awkward situation that I was really talking about a few moments ago, about the community day and wishing that awkward moment would go away. But the reality is, it's that kind of situation and dealing with it that God has put me into this position of being pastor to do. It's not like I'm in the position of just standing and watching from the sidelines. He's put me here in the position where I have the opportunity to do the right thing. And maybe he has for you too. Maybe the very thing you're trying to avoid, hoping it will go away, is the very reason that God has put you in the place that he's put you. Now, Esther realized that. And she realized that rather than risking losing all that she had by doing the right thing, she'd been given all that she had for the purpose of being able to do the right thing. Maybe you have too. Maybe God has placed you in the situation that you're in, not so that you can practice your skill of avoiding things, but so that you can take the stand and do the right thing. This could be your defining moment. It was for Esther, and the moment she realized that, it was like a light coming on for her, and it caused her to make a decision. She needed to take a step of faith. Now, why is this important? Because even when we know that to not act has worse consequences than to act, and even when she knows that this is most likely her defining moment, there's one further tactic that most of us put into practice at this stage, which is something called procrastination. That is to say, we know what we should do, we know what we need to do, we know that this is one of those defining moments, so we know that we've got to do it, and we're going to do it. soon. No, it's definitely now it's on our to-do list. It's absolutely out there as one of the things on the list. Obviously, now's not a good time. We're busy now, but yes, we know that at some stage we'll get round to it. It's always there. It's on our minds, and we know that we've got to do it. Got to do that right thing. In fact, maybe we're beginning to lose sleep over it because we still haven't done that. We still haven't confronted that person. We still haven't done the right thing. It's becoming a real burden to us. We think about it before we go to sleep. We think about it when we wake up. If you're anything like me, you can go on for ages like that. The final step, the really courageous step, the step that is the hardest to take, is the step of getting out of the boat and actually doing it. That's where the courage is really needed. To stop procrastinating, to stop putting it off, and actually take action. Now, Esther knows this, but she also knows that she needs to make sure that everyone or everything is thoroughly prepared. So she says to Mordecai, "Go and gather together all the Jews of Susa and fast for me. Don't eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will do the same. And then, though it is against the law, I will go in to see the king. If I must die, I am willing to die." She's not rushing in here, wound up and nervous about it that she goes in with all guns blazing. No, she prepares herself by making sure that she is in the right place with God. She makes sure that she has other people praying for her so that she has the right words to say and that the king will be in the best possible mood. And then she does it. She acts. As well as each of us needing a Mordecai, we also need other people who are going to be praying for us. That's why we believe in prayer groups, small groups, accountable relationships in the church. It's why we believe that it's so important to have a group of people who will not only be challenging us not to bury our head in the sand, but will be supporting us and backing us in prayer so that when we take the stand that we know that we need to take and do the right thing, we won't be doing that on our own and we'll have the greatest chance of it going well. Honestly, doing the right thing is hard enough without trying to do it just on your own, without the support and encouragement of other people. That's just unnecessary suffering. You need a Mordecai in your life, and you need a supportive group of people praying for you, and you need to take decisive action. The truth is, as Ecclesiastes chapter 11 verse 4 says, if you wait for perfect conditions, you will never get anything done. Take the step of faith. Do the right thing. Do it anyway. Do it because it's right. We all battle with this. We all need the courage that God offers to do the right thing. Mother Teresa used to have a poem, a saying on her wall in her house. The poem is one that it seems she wrote herself and she sought to live her life by. It's called Anyway, and it goes like this. People are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win some false friends and some true enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest and frank, people may cheat you. Be honest and frank anyway. What you spend years building, someone could destroy overnight. Build anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, they may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today, people will often forget tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. Give the world the best you've got anyway. You see, in the final analysis, it's between you and your God. It was never between you and them anyway. Take courage. Do the right thing. God has put you where he has put you for just such a time as this. Lord, I want to pray that for all of us, and maybe that poem that's attributed to Mother Teresa is really ringing bells with people right now. That we just need to do the right thing anyway. Why? Because it's the right thing. And we need to trust the consequences into your hands. The right thing is the right thing. And that takes courage, and it takes us the decision to not keep putting it off. It takes us having a Mordecai in our life, someone who actually encourages us and pushes us in the right direction. And maybe we need to be that Mordecai to somebody else right now. And it takes having a group of people around us who are praying for us and encouraging us. But we need to act and do the right thing. Lord, would you fill us with the courage that we need to be those people, and along with Esther, to be able to say, I'm going to do it, and if I perish, I perish. Help us, Lord, to trust you that as we do the right thing, you're right in there with us, giving us the words to say, and that the end result is up to you. Lord, may I be a person of courage to do the right thing, and may we all of us have that courage as well. And I pray it for all of us in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Well, that is definitely the end of our series on courage. I hope it's been a blessing to you. I hope today's talk has been an encouragement to you, perhaps a challenge to you. And as we go on and look at other subjects in other series of talks coming up very soon, I really hope that you can join us next time. If you can join us, we're starting a really great series on the subject of Advent, the 4 weeks running up to Christmas. What does that mean for us? Why is it such good news? So hopefully you can join me again then. Have a great time. God bless.